welcome back to my channel. My name is Chikako. I'm an illustrator and my goal is to create a welcoming space for creative friends. If you watch my video for the first time, nice to meet you. This video is for people who are curious about working for children's book in the future. I got some feedback to talk more about children's book Illustrator, so I hope this video will give you some insights. This video will cover 3 things. How to get a job, 5 things that you want to know before starting, and last, what do you need to prepare? Are you ready? Let's go! Wait, before starting, let me ask one question to you. Have you ever illustrated a children's book? That would be my first question to you if you are new to this industry. Let me share my experience. People told me that my illustration style could fit in children's book, so I thought that it would fit. Then I started without thinking that much. After starting my first project, there were many gaps. If you haven't done it yet, I would highly recommend making one for yourself first. You will get an idea what it's like before starting to work with someone. As a practice, you can pick up one book that you want to illustrate and make it in your own style. Isn't it a fun project? Don't just do one page, do several pages. This experience will tell you how much time do you need for completing illustrations. Don't forget to make a space for text too. That's common mistakes for beginners. I have experienced self-publication. I've learned a lot about what authors go through, as well as publication process and working with editors. Knowing your customer's feeling will be your strength, and you can also predict what customer might ask or request to you. If you are curious about making children's book, I made a different video how to make children's book. I will leave a link in descriptions. If you are still yes, let's talk about how to get a job. Most children's book illustrators, including me, work as freelancers, taking on project-based work. This means you will need to actively seek out projects to sustain yourself if you want to work as full-time. There are 3 methods I mentioned here. First, you need an exposure as an illustrator so that author can find you and bring you a project. Most of my clients mentioned about Instagram or other social platform, also word of mouth referral from the project I've done in the past. Plus, from meeting people in public places. Speaking of public places, I like being in local market. Sometimes I find a local author who need illustrations. In my case, I sell my children's book in local community, so this book is a good example for people who are interested in making their own book. I frequently get a question like, "Oh, I have a story too and I need illustration. How does it work if I ask you to draw?" Then I direct them to go to my website and ask them to send me more details. You can talk directly in the market, but I like the idea that they go to my website first to check my art style and leave more information such as how many pages, how many characters, or their budget. Second, an illustration agency bring me jobs. There are 2 ways that I could get a project from agency. The first is competition style. The conversation in email goes like this. We have a project that might suit your style. The book is 16 pages with full illustrations, and the story is about a girl traveling in her dreams. Are you interested? Like that example, an agency sent me a message about a project that might match my illustration style and give me a brief story and book's details. If I apply, I will compete with other illustrators, and the client, which is an author, would choose the best illustrator for their project. Another case is an author picks me directly from the agency's list of illustrators. In that case, I just need to accept the project if I want to. Every agent works differently, but this is how it worked in my case. Third, I haven't tried it yet, but some people are selling children's book illustration on Etsy shop or other freelance websites such as Fiverr. I don't have enough experience to talk about it. If you know some good tips, please leave in the comments so that other creative friends can learn from you, and of course me too. I recommend you to explore other competitors. There is a lot of information from other illustrators who are already doing it. For example, you can check how much they charge per page or per project. Also, what the whole process is like, etc. etc. Those observations will help you to build your own service. Once you get a job, congratulations! Let me share a few words from my experience. You need to do your best to understand what clients want before starting the illustration process. Why? Because illustration takes time. Once you start drawing and the author's intention is different, it consumes your time. Before working on it, I suggest you to create a questionnaire to understand what clients want, such as how many pages, book size, vertical or landscape, how many characters, what kind of colors, etc. etc. From my experience, there are two types of authors. One already has a clear vision of their final product, including character designs, compositions, and color palette, while the other leaves everything to you, especially if you work with someone who have never published their book. Sometimes they don't know what they want initially. When it happens, preparing for many questions before illustrating is a necessary skill for you. Otherwise, they might ask you modification afterwards due to misunderstanding. Now, 5 things you want to know about children's book project. 1. A single book project takes 3 to 6 months or sometimes more. It usually takes a few months to go through several steps before final submission. Every illustrator might work differently, but I will share my process. Once you accept the project, you receive a manuscript. After reading it, the first thing you do is make character design. Then start a composition, create a first sketch draft. Then once accepted, the next is a second draft with color. And finally, the final submission. There are many steps involved, and sometimes clients need time for reviewing, so you will need to find other projects to work on while waiting. Once I had 5 books from clients at the same time, and it was like juggling. While other books were being reviewed, I worked on different steps for each book, requiring organized skill. Your style doesn't matter to author. That's been my experience working with 10 plus authors. Unless you are a well-known artist, most authors that I met simply want someone who can draw, not necessarily your style. You have 2 options. You can refuse to adjust your style for an author, or learn how to adapt while you work. It's common to receive requests from authors asking, "Can you draw like this?" Even if it's completely different style from mine. For me, I'm happy to try a different style and take it as a positive challenge, although there's a pressure to see if I really can do or not. 3. Setting boundary is important. Your first project could be very difficult, but you will establish boundaries after completing few projects. One example is adding text. Some illustrators accept this, but usually texting is a job for graphic designers. I say no because I don't have enough skill to choose right font. If you are good at choosing suitable font, that could be your strength, that you can do graphic designer and an illustrator at the same time. Another thing to consider is that once your draft is accepted and the client agrees, there should be no changes or additional fees. While authors want the best for their publication, that is understandable, can extend your project's timeline without any compensation. I learned this from my initial project. I wanted to be kind and accommodating illustrator, But I realized that giving my extra time for free wasn't good service. It's essential to establish boundaries early on and know when to say no. You might not feel comfortable to say no from the beginning or knowing where the boundary is. So just keep this in mind. 4. You have no choice what to draw. If author asks you to draw something that you don't want to, or if there is expression in the text that you don't like, you might find it challenging. What would you do if you encounter a situation where the author's perspective differs from yours? Would you still do it? So while you can suggest your ideas, the author has a final decision. If you don't want to, I suggest you to consider of being an illustrator with your own stories. 5. If you are a traditional artist, children's book project could take longer and consume more of your time. For example, it's rare for me to move on to the next step without a request for modification from an author. One common request is changing the size of characters. If it's digital, you can do it quickly, but if you are using traditional materials, you will need to use an eraser and make modifications. Changing colors is also a common request. If you have patience, it's not a problem, but if an author has many change requests, which really happen constantly, you might struggle. I want to show you how to modify digitally for reference. If you are doing it digitally, changing the size and color can be done quickly. Here's one idea. Your final submission could be traditional, but digital illustration for sketching phase might be something that you want to learn so that you can save your time to respond clients' need. Finally, I will leave you some tips for getting clients. Having a website is highly recommended. When you have a service to charge, having a website gives you more trust as a business person. Having social media and showing your style is also a good idea, but I will go one step further. People who visit your website are more serious to make books because they take time to reach out to you. If you could add your process to the website, that would be wonderful for authors to get an idea. I will talk about this more in the future video if you are interested. 2. Be specific about your service before starting. I'm saying this and learning at the same time. Customer will get confused if you don't have a clear service. When a client asks you to illustrate their story, let's prepare some information beforehand. Showing example of past work or your passion project could help too. What do they get from you? I draw illustration is not enough description as your service. In my opinion, this is a difference between a hobby versus professional illustrator. A professional illustrator could deliver an artwork that customer wants, and they take a charge for that. Alright, these are the things that I came up with when someone asked me for advice about children's book illustrator. I hope you get some inspiration for your illustration career. Thank you so much for giving me a request to talk about children's book illustrator. If you enjoy the contents, my next video will be next Thursday. I'll be super happy if you could subscribe this channel so that I can share more inspiration with you. Thank you so much for watching, and then I will see you in the next video. Happy creation and see you soon. Bye bye!